Good evening. I'd like to apologize for being tardy. We just left a school board meeting, so traffic was, well, I don't have to say traffic was, it was traffic.
That's a good thing. That shows how many people live in Northport.
It shows how much growth we got in Northport.
Amen. That just solidifies
They
what
ain't
we've
leaving
been saying.
Northport, Mayor. We've been saying it.
I know.
We'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to lead us in our prayer for tonight, and right in from the prayer, we'll go right into the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Higginbotham, call roll, please.
Councilman Boozer,
Here.
President Logan,
Here.
Councilman Sullivan,
Here.
Councilman Davis,
Here.
Councilman Hogg.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Item 4, we have a special presentation out of Mr. Webb's office. Got another award to put on the wall, don't we, John?
Yes, the Alabama Water and Pollution Control Association was formed over 30 years ago to encourage friendly relationships, exchanges of information, and experiences among its members, along with promoting efficient and effective water supplies for the citizens of the state, as well as increasing and improving knowledge concerning water treatment and the operation and management of water facilities. The Water Plants Awards Committee has members inspect the water systems across the state of Alabama and award the most deserving plant once a year. To be considered for this award, the plant and distribution system must have an average score of at least 90. The City of Northport Water Division of the Utilities Department was awarded the 2017 Award of Excellence for Distribution System, 5,000 to 15,000 meters. Mr. Doug Wilder, Distribution Superintendent, is here to receive the award on behalf of all the employees who contributed. Please join me in recognizing this accomplishment. Also, the Alabama Water and Pollution Control Association recognizes wastewater treatment plants and collection systems throughout the state, which also have to have an average score of at least 90 as judged by the Wastewater Plants Awards Committee. The City of Northport Wastewater Division of the Utilities Department was awarded the 2017 Award of Excellence for the wastewater treatment plant. In the division of mechanical plant, 4.6 to 5 million gallons a day. Mr. James McKinney, Assistant Director of Utilities, is here to receive the award on behalf of the employees who contributed. Please join me in recognizing Mr. McKinney.
We certainly do appreciate these gentlemen and the fine work that they do and the departments that they lead, and we are certainly very thankful because we all benefit from what they do. Thank you for your hard work.
Item 5 is approval of the agenda. In our agenda that we're having before us, we have one deletion, item 7A1. Staff has asked that under unfinished business that be deleted. Also, I see also item 8B3 is also deleted as well. So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the deletion of item 7A1 and 8B3. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
New business, 8B1 is a resolution declaring certain items and equipment as surplus and authorizing the proper disposal. Chief Burton.
Yes, sir. This will be some, the old radio system equipment that we, had, several items from, the, department as far as, floral arrangements, stuff that we don't really need anymore. And I believe there are maybe like 4 or 5 televisions, some of the old style televisions that we would like to donate to maybe some group home, Turning Point or something like that.
All right, thank you, Chief. What I'll do is I'll make the motion to adopt that resolution declaring the items you cited or listed, it's in our council packet, as surplus and equipment, and authorizing the disposal, more specifically items that could be donated to nonprofits or social agencies, be donated from the city of Northport. So I've made that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing our police department to participate in the Community Traffic Safety Program grant. Chief Burton.
Yes, throughout the year, the state will have several grants out for our department to participate in. They can range from $500 to $10,000, $20,000. But this would give the officers time on the streets to write citations for that intersection down here at 69 and 82 where everyone's emailing me about. That would really help us out and take care of that.
Well, okay. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution authorizing our Northport Police Department to participate in the CTSP grant and authorize our mayor's office to execute all paperwork pertaining to said grant?
I'll make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Boozer. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
As I said, item 3 has been deleted. Item 4 is a resolution declaring certain items and equipment as surplus and authorizing the proper disposal. Ms. Starnes, out of Public Works.
Yes, sir. This is a 52-inch 2005 zero-turn lawnmower that was used in the fire department.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution declaring certain items as surplus and authorizing the proper disposal?
I'll make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Boozer. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item C is our consent agenda. We have 13 items. They range from minutes of the previous meeting, bill listings, travel and training for our various departments, PO requisitions for our police department, and of course, the PO requisition for our sewer repair near the National Guard Armory, double diamond construction, again, standard, $16,783 flat. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed?
So moved.
That's a motion by Councilman Boozer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 9 is reports of special committees to council. If any member of council or mayor's office wanted to give us a quick report, the floor is open.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this afternoon, coming to the Tuscaloosa County Board of Education. For those of you that weren't there, we addressed the Tuscaloosa County Board of Education about the school situation, and the request was that we have a middle school as promised in 2006 or 2008 built on the land at the Tuscaloosa County High School site. We've met with them on several occasions, but we wanted to make it public that we do not approve of the plan that they have in order to build a 5th and 6th grade school on campus and then leave Eccles Middle as the 7th and 8th grade school. So we met with them, and that's where we were for our pre-meeting. But thanks for everyone to show up. The city administrator
HR, our legal, mayor, and council. We thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilman Boozer. Is any member of council wanted to give any other updates? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 10, public hearings. We have none on the agenda tonight. Item 11, city administrator's business. Mr. Higginbotham.
I have no business, Mr. President.
Item 12 is departmental business. I wanted to add one. It would be out of our legal department. Is that correct, Ron?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. We have one item under police department. Chief Burton.
Yes, we had an application for an ABC license for J&S bartending for the Kentucky Art Festival, and it's the same vendor from last year. We see no issues with his application.
All right. Is there a motion to approve or deny the ABC license for JS Bartendering LLC, doing business as Kentucky Festival Art Show 2017?
I'll make that motion.
That's a motion to approve. Motion by Councilman Hogg to approve.
Yes.
Is that correct, Councilman?
That's correct, sorry.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
No.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Second item is under our legal department. Ron, I think you had maybe an executive session request or some
Yes.
other matter.
Yes, sir, I've got one other matter. First, Mr. Jobson has asked on 2 different occasions at the last 2 councils meetings about the status of the Tuscaloosa County Forensic Lab Task Force. And pun is intended, it's a dead issue. It had a forensic lab in Northport that did autopsies and some other lab tests. In about 2011, the state stopped funding that lab and it closed. In 2014, they formed a task force to determine whether or not the local entities would fund that rather than, in effect, take over the state funding. And it was a short-lived task force. I can't find anyone that knows anything about it other than some articles in the Tuscaloosa News where the leaders of the cities and counties indicated they did not think it was proper for the local citizens to pay that as a state expense. So the forensic lab remained closed, and now they use the office as they did before in Hoover. At that time, there were numerous people on that commission. One of the judges, the district attorney, the public defender, the city administrator of Northport. It doesn't name who that was. At the time it was Scott Collins, but the position is to be filled by the city administrator. So if the forensic task force rises from the dead under resolution 1444, the city administrator will be the member. In this case, it will be Mr. The other thing I would like to do, been requested to do, is call an executive session for several reasons. One is retail development. 2 is the possible sale of city property. And 3 is some potential litigation. What I would suggest we do, as we've done in the past, put it at the end of the council meeting, let those that wish to speak to the press or constituents do so. We'll go back into executive session. I would estimate for 30 minutes, maybe as many as 45. We'll come back out, and there is a possibility that their vote will be taken. So if you want to hang around and see what happens, please do. If it turns out that no vote will be taken, I'll come out, or Mr. Higginbotham will come out and so advise you. And then we would go back into executive session for another matter, and I don't anticipate that a vote would be taken on it, but if I find out differently, we will let you know that. So we will probably come out and take 1 vote or 2, and then may go back into executive session again, and at that time I'll let you know whether any votes will be taken or we'll simply just come out and adjourn.
All right, let me mesh through that. That's clear as mud. So on the Resolution 1444, until this task force comes back, we would basically bring, by virtue of state code, the city administrator at that time, which is Mr. Higginbotham, to serve if this
That's right.
comes back to life.
The
No
city
pun intended.
council passed a resolution. In fact, I think, Jay, you
Yeah.
made the motion,
Mhm.
and when it was done. So the resolution is to have the, quote, city administrator, close quote, serve on this task force, but it has not been active for a number of years.
All right, and then the other one, just so we can make sure the citizens are kind of up to speed, we've got an executive session, retail development, potential litigation, sale of city property. We may take a vote,
Yes, sir.
may not, may take a vote again, may not. All right. Mr. Jobson, I know you're not on the agenda. Does that satisfy what you were? Yes, sir. Okay. For now. For now. For now. Okay. All right, thank you, Ron. Is there anything else out of legal? All right. Item 13 is public comment. We have a few citizens signed to speak. I'll start right at the top. Mr. Ray Glenn. Hey, Ray. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Ray Glenn, 6700 Barn Settlement Road. Y'all seen me here before, and I just want to say, Mayor Aaron, President Logan, I want to say how proud I am of the stance that y'all have taken on this school issue. I've spoken to all of you, and as Councilman Boozer has already said to the crowd here tonight, that you were willing to leave this council and go over to the boardroom and speak. Mayor Aaron spoke, Councilman Boozer spoke, did a great job. And that's never happened before as long as I remember at the county board, having been a long time employee over there and going to most of them. So that spoke volumes about your commitment to this city, and more importantly to the children of this city. And this fight's not over. I think you have you've drawn a line in the sand, and the ball is in their court. But thank the Lord and for y'all drawing that line, and hopefully we will have a resolution to this, and something that will be good for our children and good for our city. Thanks again for what y'all do.
Next citizen signed to speak is Cassandra Williamson. Ms. Williamson, thank you for coming. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, how are you doing? My name is Cassandra Williamson, 4615 Oak Meadow Drive here in Northport. First, thank you, Mr. President, Ms. Mayor. Thank you. A couple of things. Obviously, I brought my notebook. So basically, it's just full of blank spaces, but nonetheless. Pro-growth things are definitely something that I'm kind of familiar with in the other city that I came from in Midwest in Missouri. Got some experience there, and I kind of know an idea. I have an idea. Yep, pardon the voice, though. It's old Marine Corps officer. I kind of go around going Semper Fi a lot, and, you know. Just have to excuse me. But there are several factors that actually attract businesses and keep them. One of those things happens to be your commitment to preserving the identity of your city. And I know that you're willing to do that. It has to do with your culture, your vision, your planning. And not just that, but it has to do with your structures as well. The facilities that are here. When someone drives through the city, what do they see? What attracts them? Are there historical facilities, buildings, locations, sites, monuments, structures of any type that are historic in nature? I don't know if you have an historic preservation commission, but those things are, you know, businesses look at those. Those are the sustainability things. And the other thing is they look to see how committed you are to the future. And the future is important too, obviously. And part of that is, well, let me back up and just say historic preservation. I'm familiar with it. I was the vice chairman of one in a little town in Missouri called Warrensburg, near Whiteman Air Force Base, where my son was located. So Yeah, I was the vice chairman of one. I kind of have an idea of what it takes to do one, to get it going, to set it up and make it preserve what the city has as its identity. And the other part of this is, when you're looking to the future, obviously, diversity and inclusion is hugely important. A business, when they come through here, they will look at things like that and determine whether or not they wish to stay with you for very long or even to come. Those things determine, it's kind of like a selling package, you know. And I know you guys have probably addressed some of this, and this is a really diverse council, and I appreciate that enormously. And there's a lot that we need to work on, I think, and just look at it and study. So what I'm asking the council is your permission to get you some proposals for ideas at the next city council meeting for how to move forward with a historic preservation commission, and get your permission to do that. Just to offer a proposal for your consideration. That's all I'm asking, is for you to look at it and at least consider that for historic preservation, because you've got some structures that need to be saved or preserved or at least, you know, identified.
Let's do this then.
Yes,
Can you exchange numbers with our planning director, Mr. Scott Stevens?
I can.
All right. And then I'm sure you know Mr. Gradeau. He's a member of the Historic Society of Northport. So
Okay.
start exchanging some information there, and we can at least get you on the pathway to determine how you can try to best serve in that capacity, maybe.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. President. Thank you.
Next citizen signed to speak is Mr. Stephen Schwab.
Good evening. Stephen Schwab, 25 25th Street, Northport. I have two subjects I'd like to talk about briefly. The first one is one that I've spoken about previously, and so has my neighbor, David Allgood. This summer, we were out for about 3 or 4 days in Yosemite Park. About 4 million people visit Yosemite every year. And one of the things that I noticed is you don't find any trash or litter in the public areas of Yosemite. And the reason for that is the emphasis on recycling. We now at the University of Alabama, where we have 38,000 people, there is an emphasis on recycling. There are bins for plastics, for paper, for cardboard, and the amount of trash that you see on the campus has been reduced significantly. So we have recycling centers at the University of Alabama. We have them at the Tuscaloosa Airport, and we have them in the city of Tuscaloosa at the Tuscaloosa Library, but we don't have it in Northport. Now, this creates a culture over time, if you have it. People pay attention to it. They don't throw their cigarette butts on the floor or the ground as they do in front of my house. They don't throw beer cans on the ground as they do in front of my house. They quit doing that sort of thing. Recycling properly done makes you money. If you have bins that are separate for wine bottles, for aluminum, for cardboard and paper, you can make money out of it. And you don't have to build landfills. And that's really important. So I strongly urge you to move in that direction, and to move in that direction expeditiously. The second thing I'd like to talk about is urban renewal. Now, I think converting this building into part of a shopping center or mall is a great idea, but don't stop there. And I'm encouraging you to think about doing something with Bridge Avenue downtown, right next to old downtown Northport. Now, having supply stores and body shops and vacant lots where nothing is happening, you find this in every urban area, but you usually find it on the outskirts of a city, not right next to a historic district. And I really, I was talking this morning to my secretary in the history department, and she lives in Northport, but she said, if I didn't live there and I were driving along Wallace Boulevard, for example, past these somewhat dilapidated shopping sites, she said, I don't think I'd stop there because they look like sketchy places. And that's true. They do look sketchy. And so I really do think that what I'm suggesting is a major program of urban renewal. Let me just mention that prior to 1967, there was no Hoover, Alabama. It didn't exist. It's named for a real estate developer, not named for J. Edgar, not named for President Herbert Hoover. I think his name was William Hoover. And it really wasn't until the late 1970s that you started seeing Hoover become the dynamic little city that it is today. And we've been around here in Northport since the late 19th century. And I really do believe that if you think out of the box, if you are willing to engage in a vigorous program of urban renewal, Tuscaloosa or Northport could become in many ways another Hoover, Alabama. I really do think that could happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwab. I want to make sure I give you an update, and Ms. Starnes, please stop me if I'm saying something out of step. At some point, the city will engage in a one-day, I'll say, new trash paradigm pickup system, correct? At some point. And then in the midst and process of that, we're going to probably look at doing some type of recycling at some point. We're looking at, yeah, and I think David can attest. He and I have had some conversations together offline. So Brooks' office have been working very hard in terms of looking at ways to maybe incorporate a recycling program throughout the city. Of course, it needs to be phased in. It's a marathon, folks. So I mean, just this stuff will be phased in because I know what's going to happen when you institute these new trash cans, and you may go to one-day pickup. If that's the case, people are going to say, well, what are you going to do with the other day? Well, that's where we could maybe have a fill-in for recycling. But it's got to be a process where you got to give us a little time to pull it in, maybe do a pilot area and keep building on it. And right, if done right, it can be effective if done right. So hope that answers your question on the first one, Brooke. And does that okay? The other one, urban renewal, I think you probably need to come see Councilman Hogg and myself's presentation. You know, Bridge Avenue, like I said, you know, the council's looking at an RFP of this building, so that'll give us an opportunity to bring some more energy to that area downtown, more specifically Bridge Avenue. Aldot's about to invest about $5 or $6 million. Is that right, John? In a project, maybe some turnabouts, some roundabouts at Bridge Avenue. Hopefully, if that goes well, so that infrastructure is going to be there in the next year or two. So you'll see that area improved tremendously. So I agree 100%. If you could find a way to do a facade improvement program, you know, how do you make that work with your existing businesses? So these are things that the retail committee will look at in terms of existing business owners along the corridors of Lurleen and 82. Maybe see if we can find a solution to that. So thank you. All right, item 14 is mayor and council members' business. District 1, Councilman Boozer.
Since we didn't have a pre-meeting, I was going to discuss this in the pre-meeting. I'd like to bring up a topic that we've discussed a couple of times, and I know it's been discussed ad nauseum with the rest of the council, but I would like to revisit the Hassan Center, the sale of the Hassan Center, and see if we couldn't bring that back up and get that issue at a point that we could either decide we're going to sell it. I don't think any of us are willing to say that we're willing to spend $40,000 to bring it up to code at this time, but I would like to for us to have discussion about that in the near future.
Thank you, Councilman. Actually, if that's prudent, we probably could maybe discuss that in executive session. I don't know if that's even prudent, but I think if it's discussing sale of city property, that's executive session, correct? Councilman Boozer, is that remainder of your business, or?
That's it.
Okay. Under my business, I agree 100%. I think if council wants to address a Hassan Center sale, I think we need to discuss it and make a decision, a resolution one way or the other. Also, I did want to thank the mayor, Councilman Booz, and the rest of the members of council attending a school board meeting. It showed a lot of unity, and it showed that in Northport now we got a lot of opportunities. And if you look at the sticking point, 7%, of that 7%, 6% is in Northport. And I think Mayor Aaron said it best, when you look at Riverside that's been there for many, 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 many years, old school, yeah, old school. We got some dilapidated schools, and she said it best when she said, you know, every student need to be treated fairly. And I think Northport needs to be treated fairly, and in a way that measure twice and cut once. It sounds crazy, I keep saying it, but if they would just step back and see that this is a 20-year implication. And again, I just go off the numbers. If you're telling me 6% in Northport represents Northport growth, that means you're only 1% growth in the rest of your entire school system in the county. So where should your resources go? To where the most growth is. I'm not being greedy. I'm just saying these numbers don't lie. And I think Chuck gave us those numbers. And when you're looking at a configuration, 6, 7, and 8, everywhere else, it seems to work. And I know the cohort system that they're proposing may seem like a good idea, but when you're doing these 2-year school systems, unless it's community college, I don't have enough data to see if it works or not. And again, personal opinion. Again, I got a 7-year-old son goes to Crestmont, and I promise you, we're 110 kids where we need to be. We're overcrowded. So, and that's every day. And then you look at Matthews and Riverside and Vestavia and all of them. So you know the growth in Northport is there. It's just that now we need to put a plan together that actually addresses the right way we need to go. Because again, if you make this decision now, you're going to be piecemealing it 10 years down the road. I just, again, my opinion only. But I appreciate Councilman Boozer really having some good sticking points of information, and Mayor Aaron, that really says a lot. We're trying to do what the citizens asked us to do in terms of our school system, and it's important to us, and it affects growth, it affects business, it affects all of our children. So the other thing is our MLK project. Bruce and his team internally have gotten with BKI and finally got some contractual obligations approved. So you maybe start seeing some survey work along MLK, maybe start seeing some survey stakes along MLK, and that's kind of the first step. I know AlDOT still is going to be the gatekeeper in terms of when we're going to have a meeting. So there's a 30 or 45 day prior notice to the public before you can actually jump out there officially. So we'll send some information out. You may see something in the paper, but AlDOT's the gatekeeper on that one. Many thanks to the mayor and council being proactive on that one. Councilman Hogg and I have got some information in executive session. He's going to come out, and we're just going to buy all the property up at City Hall, all over the city. We're just going to get in the land business. That's what we're going to do. Cat's out the bag. Where's the school board getting it? They said they got it. They got it too. I'm on a soapbox now anyway. District 3, Councilman Sullivan.
I don't know if I can follow you.
Oh.
Just real quick, I want to thank James and Doug. I certainly appreciate you guys. You guys do a wonderful job. Not a lot of people get to see what you guys do. I certainly understand it, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you guys. Also, reminder, December 1st is our 'Twas the Night Before Christmas 5K. The run will begin at 7 p.m., so I want to encourage everybody to sign up, run, walk, crawl. As long as you donate, it goes to a good cause, to our local DHR to help our children. So it's a good cause. It's going to be a lot of fun. So please sign up. Like I said, if you don't want to run, just donate. It means a lot to the kids. So be looking for that. I'll have forms in the back next meeting, or you can contact me or Whitney in the back, and we'll get you that tonight if you would like to. So that's all I have.
Thank you. District 4, Councilman Davis.
I'd just like to piggyback off of Councilman Sullivan. Thank you, James and Doug, and your departments for what they do. A lot of people don't see what y'all do, but y'all work good, long, hard hours, and we really appreciate it. And remind everybody to come out for the Kentuck Fall Festival this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. 46th annual, right, Ms. Eccles? Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you. District 5, Councilman Hogg.
State what everybody else said. James, Doug, thank you. That was a great honor to see that tonight, so we appreciate that. Also, I was going to invite everyone to make sure they come out to Kentuck. Robbie for stealing my thunder on that one too. And also thanks to Lee and Mayor Aaron tonight for speaking to the county board, and hopefully we'll be able to see something happen with that. Also, in conjunction with Councilman Boozer, I do know that the Hassan Center needs to be looked at. This has been a topic of discussion for a while, so we do need to take a look at that tonight if we can, Ron, just to see what options are out there and go forward from there so we can get an answer out to the public. So that's about it.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Aaron.
Well, everybody stole my thunder for sure. But at any rate, I do want to encourage everybody to come to Kentucky. I'm looking forward to it, and thankfully the weather's going to be nice again. So they tell us we won't know till Friday and Saturday and Sunday. But it's always a good thing for Northport. It certainly helps our finances to some extent. We get and a lot of publicity, not only locally but nationally. So it is a good thing. And obviously, it has grown for years. The 46 years that we have had it. Unfortunately, I wasn't around for the first one. I'm old, but not that old. But and I do appreciate everybody who did come tonight. We made our position very clear with the County Board of Education, what we thought, how we felt, and how we felt it would impact our city. The ball is in their court. We'll see what they do with it, and only time will tell. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor. Ron, again, we're going to go in executive session, correct? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting into executive session to discuss retail development, possible sale of city property, and potential litigation? The session should last no longer than 2 days. Strike that one. Strike that one. Wrong. Ron, I'll leave it. I can't leave it open-ended, but let's say 1 hour and 30 minutes. It is anticipated that the council will, may, shall, or shall not take action after executive session is concluded. But if it is, we will definitely come back out and do the proper Robert's rule to address any voting that may come about out of the executive session. So that's in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
We'll go in executive session. It is, was it 6:41?
6:41.
All right. Can we give, maybe Mayor, I think you may want to speak to the media outlet may want to address you. I guess we'll take 5 or 10 minutes or. Yep. Won't take that long. So Mayor Aaron's going to do that real quick and we're going to get started.
Not to me, someone else.
Hey, Ron, as a point of reference, since we are still kind of moving out executive, do we need to get out executive and then do any kind of action and come back?
You can just note for the record, the council's returned back from executive session, and I guess probably wouldn't hurt to go ahead and move to come on back into regular council meeting from the executive session.
Yes, that's to be cleaner. We are back from executive session. If it's if it pleases Mayor and Council, is there a motion to adjourn this particular executive session to take a formal vote on matters of retail development, possible sale of city property? So my motion is to adjourn the executive session at this time. That's in the form of a motion.
Second.
Second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
All right. Under normal Robert's rule, we are under normal meeting right now. We are going to discuss, I know council went into executive session and regarding some retail development, possible sale of city property. We had RFPs that were submitted over the course of a few weeks. They closed last week, and we discussed in our meetings and sessions some RFPs that were submitted. We had 3. All 3 were admirable. All 3 had some good ideas. We culled them out. There were 2 that stood out, but of those 2, we did have one that provided the council and hopefully the city what we're trying to do long term with bringing some development, some retail, and some energy. And I think if it's the pleasure of the mayor and council, the council has selected or wanted to accept the RFP of Beaker Properties Group. And I'll make a motion to accept the RFP of Beaker Properties Group. And again, inside of and let me make sure I'm clear, Ron, there's a 6-month, what I like to call due diligence period. So let me be 100% clear. There's not saying that we're going to move tomorrow. It's basically saying the developer has 6 months to do his due diligence, and the city on our end will do ours, and city's not out of anything. If we decide, you know what, we just don't like the direction we're headed, we'll just take our cards and we'll go somewhere else. So again, to be clear, there's a 6-month due diligence process that's very important to the whole system that we're trying to do. So that's in the form of a motion to accept the RFP of Beaker Properties Group. Of course, with the caveat, there's a 6-month due diligence to where the city of Northport can opt out of the RFP agreement at any time. No skin off our teeth if we so choose to. And then on the other end, so again, that's coming from the recommendation of our Retail Development Committee. We felt like, and Jeff, you back me up, if we're going to make this retail, we might as well do a retail trade area. And the fact that Beaker Properties has existing properties just to the east of us kind of made sense if we could play off some of that energy.
That's correct, and likewise, Beaker Properties can do their 6-month due diligence as well and get out of this agreement with us as well with no penalty.
All right. I've made that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. That's a second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments from Mayor or Council? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Make sure I'm clear to our folks in the media. It's not saying that City Hall will be sold tomorrow. It is basically saying we've accepted the RFP and we're going to go through our due diligence. He's asked us to dance. We're thinking about it.
That's pretty good.
I mean, I write in crayon. He's asked us to dance. We're thinking about it. So, Ron, what I'll do now is,
Exact quote,
yes,
Stephen.
yes. I mean,
Back there, right?
hey, Stephen, strike that from the record. No comment. Huh? We got some returns at no comment.
He's telling you to shut up.
All right. What we'll do is we'll go back into executive session, Ron. Again, I'll move to adjourn the meeting to go back into executive session to discuss potential litigation. The session should take no longer than X, Ron.
30 to 45 minutes.
45 minutes. It is anticipated the council may or may not take action after the executive session is concluded. So that's in the form of a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Davis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Davis,
Yes.
Councilman Boozer,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're in executive session. We're in executive session, folks. All in favor, please say yes. All opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.